being a simple gaming enthusiast and computer science student, Brad Myers has had quite a transformation in the form of online presence over the last decade. Who is Brad Myers, you may say? Does that not ring a bell? Well, over the past decade, Brad may have been a software engineer by day, but by night, he slowly shifted into the gaming legend you can't ignore when talking about any form of mainstream speedrunning, and his name is Darbian.
Oh my god. Boom. And that is Wally Bear. I don't know what that was.
Oh my god. I'm so sleepy for this right now.
Boom! That's it! Oh my gosh!
We're all just young boys on Twitch. Don't scream, don't break any cameras. This should be a straight shot in. Hello everyone. Very appropriate first question to answer review. Where have I been for the last 20 months?
With mostly growing up in the 90s, Darbian, or Darb's, introduction to the gaming world spawned from the likes of the Nintendo and Super Nintendo Entertainment System. Luckily, David Snyder, who made a book interviewing many speedrunners, was able to interview Darb and got a lot of insight around his gaming origins. One of his earliest gaming memories is when he watched his brother play Super Mario Bros. Darb picked up the controller when his brother left the room, but had to get him back due to not knowing how to swim in the game, which requires tapping A. Some other games that Darb would sink a lot of his time into throughout his early years would include Super Smash Bros. And Earthbound. It wouldn't be until 2013 that he started the journey that we know today. By this point, he had already graduated as a computer science major at Virginia Tech and became a full-time software engineer. Some of his hobbies included racquetball and Dance Dance Revolution, but early in the year, he came across Awesome Games Done Quick, or AGDQ 2013, one of two speedrun marathons that take place every year to raise money for charity, by having a wide range of players come together to showcase games being beaten as fast as possible. Darb had already stumbled upon some speedruns previously, but seeing games being played on real hardware in front of a big audience really opened his eyes. He immediately wanted to join in on the fun and add something new to his list of hobbies. He already had a huge advantage with owning some retro consoles of his own. After scraping up the equipment required to stream and record attempts, all he had to do now was decide what he wanted to play. Darb would have unsuccessful speedrun projects in Air Fortress, a shooter on the NES, and Big Nose the Caveman, a platformer on the same console. He ultimately settled on the Warpless category in Super Mario Bros. In the early 2010s, Speedruns Live, or SRL, was one of the most successful speedrun platforms which primarily allowed players to do online speedrun races against one another. SRL in its prime hosted an event labeled as Seasons. They picked multiple categories in the most popular games and reset the race leaderboard for a few months. Whoever ended up in the top 3 leaderboard positions would get some sort of prize. Darb would start practicing and stream a bunch of races starting in April. He made every run he streamed a no reset attempt. He also preferred to talk with other people he was racing with. This made things more enjoyable due to dealing with a mostly empty chat when starting out. Looking at Darb's entire Speedruns Live, he really did commit to finishing every run in any race. I, on the other hand, can't say the same. He would start to do these Warpless races almost daily for multiple weeks against many common faces around the time, such as Barn Owl, Rupert, Cosmic, and Andrew G. In between all these Warpless races, there was one irregularity: Out to Lunch, a Super Nintendo platformer featuring a chef traveling around the world to gather ingredients for his dishes. The chef,
Pierre le Chef,
many may recognize from Darb's profile picture on Twitch, which he would wind up using ever since. After this, the Warpless races would continue, but starting in August, he would sprinkle in some other Mario titles, such as Super Mario World, Super Mario 64, Super Mario Bros. 2, Super Mario Bros. 3, and even Super Mario 3D World. Darb would race a handful of other titles, but sadly not too much from this time period was highlighted. On his YouTube, he started uploading a few individual level speedruns of the Super Nintendo platformer named after the mascot for the drink 7-Up, Cool Spot. This character would also become heavily associated with Darbian as a whole due to using this for some of his profile pictures, just like the chef. His first Twitch highlight shows us what he was doing in October. By this point, he was running quite a bit of Super Mario World, primarily No Star World, which beats the game without using any Star Warps. In November, we get some of Darb's first documented speedrun personal bests, with a 1943 in Super Mario Bros. Warpless, and a 34:12 in Super Mario World No Star World. While these runs don't rank the highest against times today, at the time, these were top runs. For someone who only started speedrunning earlier that year, Darb had already made quite a name for himself, but honestly, he was only just getting started. Entering 2014, Darb continued with Super Mario World and scooped up 2 records in miscellaneous categories: All Switches No Cape and All Switches Small Only. Both of these categories require you to beat all 4 Switch palaces in the game, and each category has different power-up requirements which you can gather from their name. Both of these records would stand for a few years, partly due to their lack of popularity across some of these extra categories. Like before, Darb again would tackle a variety of games. In April, he got the record in Cool Spot, and also made a tutorial for anyone interested in running the game. He would go on a world record spree, topping the leaderboard in World of Illusion and the Magical Quest, starring Mickey Mouse, as well as California Raisins, Gilligan's Island, Wally Bear and the No Gang, and finally, a bootleg of Super Mario World on the NES, dubbed Chinese SMW. He had a couple other projects sprinkled in between, such as lowering his Mario 3 Warpless run a handful of times, and tackling Mega Man 2. In August, he also did a Warpless race of Super Mario Bros. Using Stagio, a Game Genie code that gives every enemy in the game the ability to throw hammers. It took him quite a while, but he finally conquered World 8 after 2.5 hours. Now that I think I briefly mentioned every other thing Darb did in 2014, let's dive into the part most people were expecting: Super Mario Bros. Any %, beating the game as fast as possible, no restrictions. In October, he was starting to chip his time left and right, and his earliest documented run is a 5:02, which would quickly get beaten 3 more times. By the end of the month, he got a 5:01. Following that, he got 2 5-minute flats, and finally a 4:59. This time was enough to land him in the top 5. While he was on a hot streak, Darb only 3 weeks after this pushed it even further, getting a low 4:58 time. This put him less than a second away from the record, which he was more than capable of getting if he just learned one more trick. Before continuing his ever-growing dominance in Super Mario Bros., Darb started the year by improving the record twice in Mickey Mouse World of Illusion. This made him the record holder again after Adenture took his record in August. Besides getting his record back, a huge reason why Darb was playing a lot of this game was due to him getting accepted into AGDQ 2015, the same set of events that got him into speedrunning in the first place just 2 years earlier. Darb did a race against Adenture and had a really tight performance. Adenture and Darb finished within 6 seconds of each other, with Adenture winning. Both performances were quite solid as they both finished roughly only 20 seconds after Darb's most recent record. Getting back to the true meat of 2015, Mario won. Like I said before, there was one single thing that kept Darb between him and the world record, and that one thing was the bullet bill glitch. I will be oversimplifying this explanation quite a lot, but if you arrive at the end of 8-2 at the right time, in combination with either bouncing on or skipping certain Koopas mid-level, you can get the last bullet bill cannon to shoot the bill quick enough in order to save an additional frame roll or 0.35 seconds. Timing your jump just right with this bullet will allow you 50% of the time to grab the flagpole low enough to where Mario gets pushed out of the block left, and the timer instantly starts counting down. Besides having the game initiate the countdown sooner, you also skip Mario's walking animation to the castle. This allows you to beat the level 2 frame rules faster than usual, or 0.7 seconds. The record at the time, which was a 457.693 by Saradoc, opted to lose a frame rule in 4-2 by doing a slower yet safer method to wrong warp to the warp zone. To make up for this, he was the first to go for a bullet bill glitch in record attempts, which allowed him to get the first 4 minute and 57 second time in the category, something that runners in the past thought was impossible. After getting a low 458, Darb continued to pour more attempts to the category, and on January 18th, for the first time ever, got a bullet bill glitch in a run. He was able to stay on world record pace until the end of Room 2 in 8-4, where he unfortunately failed a wall jump to enter the pipe. Nonetheless, he could taste both a 457 and possibly a new record. Before we dive more into any percent, Darb would go back to his roots and chopped more off his warpless time. Leaderboards pre-2016 are not the most accurate, but it's safe to say at this point he was in the top 10. He also dabbled in a few new games, such as Zelda, Metroid, and Karnov. While he did move away from Super Mario Bros. For a brief period, it was short-lived as Darb by May was already doing more any percent attempts with bullet bill glitch this time. If he got every frame rule in his personal best, included the bullet bill glitch, and had a fast enough 8-4, he could be the new Super Mario Bros. Champion. On May 14th, he had a run with a bullet bill glitch successfully enter 8-4. This was his time to shine. Unfortunately though, his 8-4 was a bit sloppier than Saradoc's and got a time 100 milliseconds behind the record, 457.793. While it wasn't required for record yet, he was also able to pull off a faster 4-2 frame rule in one of his attempts, dubbed Fast 4-2. Douji was going for this in its world records before bullet bill glitch was discovered to be human viable. I hate to repeat myself, but for anyone curious, here's a fast explanation from my previous video mentioning Fast 4-2. This trick involves 3 separate bumps to get the desired screen position, but it was found that this can be done with only 2 bumps. Using a hack that displays Mario's X position, you'll see that without bumping anything, this position locks to 112. If you jump against any kind of wall facing left, you can get this X position to increase between 7 and 10 pixels each time. To make this wrong warp work at all, you need to end up with an X value of at least 132, and if you can get 2 optimal bumps giving you 10 pixels each, it gives you just enough of an X value to barely make this trick work. This won't be the last time that we touch upon Fast 4-2. Only 12 attempts after his first Fast 4-2, he had another run with a bullet bill glitch that reached 8-4. He fortunately did have a faster 8-4, but it still wasn't fast enough. Darb got a 457.709. This was an 11 frame improvement over his previous best. It was now only a single frame behind Saradoc's record. No matter how much his next improvement was from this point forward, he would have to at the very least tie the record. It seemed like every time Darb did something extraordinary in Super Mario Bros., he would take a break, even if very briefly. In this case, he moved around quite a lot over the following few months. Darb would return to a few games he previously already dabbled in, such as Super Mario World, where he got a 129 and 96 exit, and Wally Bear in the No Gang, which he streamed for 8 hours straight, and improved his record by roughly 5 seconds. He in between would also do a casual playthrough of Mega Man 3. He would also continue to lower his personal bests in a variety of Mario titles from the Lost Levels to Super Mario 64. In October though, Darb was back to his bread and butter. Over 1,700 attempts after his nail-bitingly close to the record personal best in May, he had another attempt at her 8-2, and just like before, nailed bullet bill glitch. Without giving his hopes up and using all his focus, he traversed 8-3, and room by room made his way through 8-4. The only thing putting Darb between failure and being the new Mario King was a few final jumps. He made his way over Bowser's head, and while he wasn't sure at that very moment, he had just performed the fastest completion of Super Mario Bros., getting a 457.627, beating Saradoc by 4 frames. While Darb's intentions when firing up his stream in 2013 may have been nothing more than casual fun, in just the span of 2.5 years, he had already become one of the best. He may have already pushed himself to the top of Super Mario Bros., but this wasn't enough for Darb. He returned to another game. Only days after his any percent record, he went to the lost levels and got an 8:12 time, which at this point put him only 6 seconds behind the record, which was also held by Saradoc. With Darb getting a grasp for how to practice and grind Mario runs at this point, he progressed really, and I mean really fast. He kept soldiering on, and after 500 more attempts over the span of 2 weeks, he had another break. He nailed a wall jump in 1-2, breezed through World 4, got past typical World 5 difficulties, and with 2 Bowsers playing in his favor in 8-4, achieved an 803.03, dethroning Saradoc by over 3 seconds. In the span of a month, Darb not only achieved one of the most coveted Mario World records, but just weeks later scooped up yet another one in a debatably harder title. This kind of back-to-back achievement is rarely heard of. After an eventful 2015, Darbian kept pursuing new goals. He pushed his already impressive Mario 1 warpless time all the way down to a 1915. This was only 9 seconds away from Saradoc's record, which he achieved that same week. Between all his Mario action, he also returned to his common profile picture and did full game attempts of Out to Lunch, beating the game without warps in an hour and 46 minutes. After adding a couple Mario records to his already growing speedrun resume, something that he would keep doing is running at awesome games done quick. For the 2016 marathon, he started the year preparing for another Mickey Mouse race, this time being Magical Quest. He emulated his improvements from last year's Mickey Mouse practice and improved the record by 9 seconds just like he did in World of Illusion. At the event, he ran against Red Ninja Josh. Darb won the race with a time of a bit over 18 minutes. This wasn't the only game he ran at AGDQ that year. After recently claiming the record, he appropriately raced Super Mario Bros. Any percent against Lack Attack, most notable for being one of the best in the original Legend of Zelda, and Green Death Flavor, or GDF, a consistent top player in many Mario titles, most notably holding almost every single record in Super Mario World around his era. Darb won the race with a 5:06, GDF finished 15 seconds later, and Lack unfortunately struggled in World 8. With Darb having just raced any percent at AGDQ, the week after the marathon ended, he was already back on the Mario grind. Unlike his journey to beating Saradoc's 457, Darb on January 14th would very quickly set another piece of Mario history. He was out on a quest to be as perfect as humanly possible at the time. He was finally ready to add Fast 4-2 in every attempt in order to stretch the record to limits never seen before. On attempt 7,407, Darb stayed neck and neck entering 4-2, did the previously avoided Fast 4-2, and then stayed on the exact same pace till the beginning of 8-4. All he had to do now was make less than a frame rule save worth of mistakes, and he would have his second any percent record. And while he was
So sleepy for this right now.
he made his way through, and while he had an ugly water section, it was still good enough to be a fifth of a second improvement with a 457.427.
Boom! That's it! Woo!
That was not a good 8-4.
With such a disappointing end to 8-4, Darb still wasn't giving up. He knew there was more time to milk out of the last level. Only a week after his latest improvement, Darb posted another stream highlight titled, "I almost killed SMB1 any percent." After a little over 100 attempts later, he remained tied all the way to 8-4 and had a clean enough performance all the way to the end of the turnaround room, and unlike before, he got through the water room without scraping the floor, but then before leaving the pipe to exit the water room, he didn't immediately press right to enter the pipe, and lost so many frames that a new record became impossible. With no other frame rule time saves being known at the time, this hypothetical record may have stood for a very long time. While it was heartbreaking, Darb a week later streamed and posted a 2-hour tutorial for anyone wanting to pick up the any percent category, and then took a minor detour in his game plans. Dating back to 2015, the 12-hour challenge has been a biannual speedrun event coined by Golden, which involves speedrunners trying to pick up a new speedrun in a short period of time. These events are set over the course of a weekend, where players go from trying to learn a game and beat it for the first time, all the way to seeing how much they can improve with an overall time limit of 12 hours. This challenge is a great excuse for runners to get out of their comfort zone, even if just slightly. The second 12-hour challenge, which was hosted in early 2016, had the theme, "A console I usually don't play." Darb for this occasion chose Super Mario Land on the Game Boy. While it may be from a close time period to the games he was mostly running, the Super Mario Land games are quite unique to their mightier console comparisons. Nonetheless, over the course of the weekend, Darb 11 hours in got a 1250, which at the time put him in 4th place. Not bad at all for such a short learning period. With a miniature break and another solid Mario time coming out of it, Darb took no time to immediately reposition his focus to Super Mario Bros. He was seen dabbling with both the Any% and Warpless categories. He also in between would be seen tampering with the lost levels again. With Darb having over 13,000 Any% attempts by April, it was inevitable that he would make history again sooner or later. 3 months ago at this point, he had already come alarmingly close to such feats. On April 13th, Darb fired up his stream, did some practice, and got straight into attempts. Over the period of an hour, he only got past Fast Forward 2 once, and that attempt died mid 8-1. He would eventually get another roll at Fast Forward 2, and on attempt 13,292, hit the jackpot one more time. With even splits up to 8-4, all Darb had to do again was one final level. With a solid wall jump and turnaround, the only thing he had left was his biggest enemy, the water room. This time he wouldn't scrape the floor, nor mess up his ending right input. And after jumping his way through Bowser, he destroyed the Any% record once again, this time clocking in at 457.260.
Oh my gosh! Woo!
With Darb now having a more optimal 8-4, he officially put down his controller for the category and called his quest over. There really didn't seem like too much else to do. After such an amazing feat, Darb started focusing on some other goals he had at the time, such as improving his record in the lost levels even further than ever before, and just 2 weeks after his last 457, he would get his wish and beat it by nearly a second with a low 802. With multiple glaring sections of time loss though, Darb was in a similar situation to the original Super Mario Bros. And wanted to keep cleaning up the run until he was fully satisfied. After many more sessions grinding away at the category, Darb at the end of May had another successful break. He would save multiple frame rules between 4-4, 5-2, and 8-2, which was enough to get him mouth-wateringly close to a new minute barrier with an 8 minute and 140 millisecond time. Darb in between all his lost levels sessions would also do a handful of co-op Any% attempts in Mario 1 with Lack Attack, where they eventually got the world record with the sketchiest 8-4 in history. After all this though, Darb was about to embark on a new challenge that was debatably more ambitious than anything he had ever conquered previously. In June, he would run a bunch of Warpless in the lost levels, and eventually secure the record in the Warpless 8-4 category, but that was just the tip of the iceberg in regards to Mario and Darb in 2016. If you take a glance at his speedrun history, you'll see that starting in the middle of the year, that he was getting personal bests in Super Mario Bros. 2, 3, Mario 64, and World. So what was with all of a sudden Mario variety? Well, the year before, he started planning a huge challenge for his stream that he dubbed the Super Mario Hour Challenge. The goal was to beat 6 classic Mario games back to back in one sitting in under 1 hour. After many attempts and many heartbreakingly close calls in between, Mario 64, Darb was able to achieve his own put together challenge with a 58-27. On top of that, this successful attempt ended with a personal best in the Super Mario 64 category, 1 star. With such a longly anticipated challenge being pulled off, Darb after this would keep up his Super Mario Bros. Action, but before he did most of that, he briefly did runs of Sonic 2, and got the record in Castle of Illusion. Between the two runs I just talked about, Darb was also messing around a bit with Super Mario Bros. And was trying to make history once again. With another Fast Forward 2 attempt, his fears of 8-4 seemed to wear off at this point, and scored a 457.244, which was a 1 frame improvement over his previous record. While a new record is very exciting, this is just the tip of the Super Mario Bros. Iceberg for 2016. For years upon years, it has been known thanks to the wonderful world of tool assisting, where you can make perfect runs frame by frame, that in Super Mario Bros. There were a plethora of time saves humans could never imagine doing. The bullet bill glitch that both Saradoc and Darb had gone for in their records used to be thought of as humanly impossible. So, was there anything else yet to be discovered? Going back through tool-assisted speedruns, or TAS history, in late 2007, KLMZ published a movie that beat the previous best-known any percent time by over a second, and all that time save came from one single trick, the flagpole glitch. It was found that you can clip into the block under the flagpole, which allows you to skip the flagpole animation, and also allows you to make an earlier frame rule in many levels just in any percent alone. In 2016, people started wondering how possible this could be in real runs. Possible setups for 1-1 were starting to be researched. Most notably, Mav6771 did a lot of research into trying to find flagpole glitch setups which would lead to Darb doing attempts using Mav's ideas. Mav had come up with a very primitive and inconsistent setup for 1-1 flagpole glitch, dubbed Mavpole. In August, Darb did a string of any percent attempts where he kept going for flagpole glitch and reset if he failed it. Eventually, this happened. Look at his splits, minus 0.3. Darb was the first ever human to get a flagpole glitch while also saving an additional frame rule in 1-1. That attempt may have died shortly after in 1-2, but that didn't matter. Just this one frame rule unlocked the possibility of a 456 for anyone who wanted to put in the work. And over the following couple months, more consistent setups, as well as being able to do it in 4-1 and 8-3 were being researched and put together. And we will get to that in due time, but first, Darb briefly did some more lost levels and claimed the any percent record with Luigi, who has slightly different physics, and also further demolished his Mario Hour challenge and got a 56-minute time. Alright, now that I got those two out of the way really quick, let's get back to the juicy Mario 1 any percent developments. Now being October, the flagpole glitch was already being mastered by every top runner thanks to Sockfolder, who had managed to find out a more consistent way to execute said glitch. Thanks to this, Cosmic beat Darb's record by 3 frames. He lost a frame rule to Bullet Bill glitch in 8-2, and opted for a slower 4-2, but thanks to a flagpole glitch in both 1-1 and 4-1, he was able to clutch a new record with a faster 8-4. Darb had also been keeping up with the latest flagpole glitch developments, and was now going for a flagpole glitch in 1-1 and 4-1. If he copied Cosmic's record and didn't lose a frame rule in 8-2, he would get a 456, the newly coveted second barrier. Fortunately, this new setup was way more consistent than what Darb originally tried, because just 2 days after Cosmic, we got this.
That was it! That was it! That was it! That was it! Did I break the camera? I kinda broke the camera. That was it.
456.878. He got 1-1 flagpole glitch, did the same in 4-1, and opted for a safer 4-2. This put him 1 frame rule ahead, entering 8-4. Over 2 years after Saradoc got the first 457, which seemed to be the final barrier, and after Darb claimed his quest was finally over, Darb came back and took advantage of many new developments, which gave him not just another record under his belt, but a new historic milestone. If Darb breaking a new second barrier in one of speedrunning's most notable categories wasn't enough, he not long after that started to chip down his warpless time, second by second. His ultimate goal? Another record. First it was a 909, Denei 1908, next day 1907, and then in mid-November, this happened.
We're all just young boys on Twitch. Yes! 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 Yes!
In 1904, over a solid 1 second improvement against Ceradoc's 1905. This is now the third time that slowly but surely, he dethroned one of their records. Since Darb was already on a roll, he continued his Super Mario Bros. Leaderboard sweep one category at a time. First it was All-Stars any %, then All-Stars Warpless, more All-Stars any %, and the very last category on the main board that he didn't have a record in yet, Minus World Ending. He would keep this leaderboard sweep for a solid 4 months following this. Oh, and if that wasn't enough, to insert his dominance even further in 2016, he ended the year getting 2 more Lost Levels record in the All-Stars version, any % D4 and any % 8-4. If you especially like these Lost Levels record, then you'll be happy at what Darb would focus on next. In a similar fashion to previous years, Darb once again was at AGDQ. This time he did a Super Mario Bros. Warpless race between Andrew G and Cosmic. Darb ultimately won with a time of a little over 20 minutes. He also did a Lost Levels race against the two, with Cosmic taking the trophy that time. Getting back to actual runs, remember how Darb got really close to a sub 8 minute time in Lost Levels any % in early 2016? Well, entering 2017, he used a new trick in 5-2 dubbed Devil's Spell, which allowed him to save a frame rule over his 8-minute run. This frame rule was just enough to bring him below the minute barrier with a new 7:59.86 time. This run has also become iconic among Darb's catalog due to an infomercial he played in the background during his run.
Here, I'll put the top on, and as you can see, anybody can do this. I'll put it in my machine, and meal is done. You set it, and you... People want to know what is the size of the machine. Now, folks, that's roast beef.
There's the line! There was the line! Now, folks, that's roast beef.
With unlocking such a major Lost Levels milestone, Darb kept going with the game, but went back to the All-Stars version. He was constantly putting time into the D4 Warpless category, which is notably a tightly packed run full of potential time losses and possible time saves. Darb already had a world record comparison on his splits, so you could tell where his intentions were from the get-go. During this time, he also casually played some GoldenEye, and also did another 12-hour challenge. He moved one game forward and picked Super Mario Land 2. He got a 27:35, which was a little over a minute slower than the record at the time. After the 12-hour challenge, he would continue his Lost Levels grind, and while he was at it, explore the rest of the All-Stars cart. Over the next few months he would get records in Lost Levels any % and Warpless D4, as well as All 4 and All 5, which require you to play every game on the cartridge back to back. He also in between got another Warpless 8-4 record, but in the original Lost Levels. Besides the entourage of All-Stars records, he briefly returned to the Castle of Illusion to pick his record back up, which he did by 6 seconds. He also ran this game at the summer variant of GDQ, or SGDQ. After that, at the end of July, Darb returned to one of the games tied to his image, Pool Spot, and demolished the record 3 times using new discoveries and routing. He ultimately improved the record by nearly 30 seconds. After that, Darb did something that I haven't talked about in the slightest today already. Ran the Lost Levels. He improved Ceradoc's record in any % with Luigi by a decent amount, and he also demolished the time in All Night Nippon Super Mario Bros., which was an official ROM hack made in the 80s for a Japanese radio program contest celebrating their 20th anniversary. Later in the year, another 12-hour challenge came up, and Darb did something a bit more out of the box this time. He decided to go with Duke Nukem 64. The game hadn't really been tackled as a speedrun previously, with Cubeface having the only recorded time on the leaderboard at over 30 minutes. By the end of Darb's 12-hour challenge, he lowered the record down to a 19:06, quite a dramatic improvement. For the rest of 2017, I can say that Darb's goals finally thinned out a bit. at least in comparison to before. He dabbled with an Atari 2600 homebrew titled Princess Rescue that is totally an original game that you've never seen before. He also, during the height of the Dragster 5.57 drama, grinded many attempts to try and be one of the first humans to tie the task. He ultimately became the second person to get a 5.57, and was the first human to do so on real hardware. Before capping off the already busy year, Darb had to end it with a bang. After previously claiming to be done, and already returning months later, he came back to Mario 1 Any% one more time to incorporate one last thing. You see, at this point, Cosmic had happened to tie Darb's 456.878. He had an unoptimal bullet bill glitch, but happened to back it up with an 8-3 flagpole glitch. If you put 2 and 2 together, something was clearly going to happen next. Who was going to perform an 8-3 flagpole glitch while staying against the record in every other level? Well, on October 20th, it was Darb's calling, and he was tied with the record entering 8-3. At the beginning of the level, he went for a setup that was starting to be used at the time, and at the very end, nailed what Cosmic previously did a frame roll behind him. Darb was now a solid frame roll ahead, entering 8-4, and with a solid enough performance, untied the record once again with a 456.528.
Don't scream, don't scream. Don't scream, don't break any cameras.
He had now beaten his first 457 record by over a second at this point. No one knew even a year and a half before that a time like this in the 456 range could be humanly possible, nonetheless a mid 456. While this reign wouldn't last forever, Darb got to boast one more record in the Any% category 3 years after he first seriously tackled it. Entering 2018, Darb would continue to work on Princess Rescue, and this was because for the 4th year in a row, he would run at HEDQ. This time it was a run by himself, in which he showcased funny mechanics, such as being able to warp to the next level if you game over on the first stage of any world. Commentary for the run was provided by Blecky, who had previously helped commentate some of Darb's older runs. He ultimately finished 20 seconds behind his personal best. Moving past Darb's mini Princess Rescue era, he would dive back into the original Super Mario Land to try and optimize his time further. Between February and March, he improved 5 times with an overall 20-second improvement. This moved Darb up to 2nd place, with the record being only 5 seconds faster. During the middle of one of his 12-hour challenge revisits, Darb also did another 12-hour challenge. He moved even further away from his comfort zone and tried Wii Sports Resort, specifically the 18 holes golf category. He improved the record by 15 seconds, and after Darb posted his time, it became a bit of a phenomenon. Wii Sports Resort exploded in popularity among the speedrun community, and Darb's record run garnered over 2 million views, and to this day is one of his most viewed speedruns. For context of how much this run blew up, nowadays, as of this video, he is now 64th place with the record being optimized by 2 minutes. Summoning Salt, who's the only speedrun YouTuber ever, would end up covering this game a couple years later, and dubbed this sudden surge in popularity as the Darbian Effect. Following Darb's rapid Mario Land improvements, he pretty quickly shifted towards some other Mario titles he kept coming back to over the years, Mario 2 and Mario 3. In Mario 3, he kept lowering his warpless time with his last personal best being a 52:14. This was within a minute and a half away from the record, which was really impressive considering how demanding the category and Mario 3 is in general. In Mario 2, he ran Any% and got an 8:32, which was only 7 seconds away from the record and put him tied in 4th place. If Darb didn't have a record in a Mario title, he most definitely did his best to put himself eerily close to it. Amidst his Mario 2 runs, on August 1st, Darb uploaded a 2-minute video to his YouTube channel titled Speedrun Q&A Episode 0, Introduction. He briefly touches on how he has grown more over the previous few years and has collected an ever-growing list of questions viewers constantly ask him. In response to this, he wanted to make a Q&A in the form of a video series, where each video would tackle one question further in depth. He encouraged anyone with any questions at all to post a comment response, and that he would start making his way through the list. He ultimately got hundreds of comments which ranged from general advice to specific game questions, but 2018 turned into 2019, and 2019 slowly morphed into 2020. And with Darb not posting a single video or starting up a single stream, those questions started to go another direction. The speedrun world needed to know, where was Darbian? On Twitter, Darb would still retweet things every so often, and my fat self from 2019 can confirm that he was also still going to Games Done Quick events. The months would keep adding up, but on April 26, 2020, 20 months after his last piece of content, the world heard a little blip. Live Super Mario Land 2 any% glitchless speedruns, twitch.tv/Darbian. The man himself finally crawled back out for the whole speedrun community to see. At the same time, he also posted the video, Speedrun Q&A Episode 1, Where Have You Been? He addresses some struggles he had been dealing with over the past couple of years, such as pain in his thumbs and struggling with depression. He ended it with saying that he was officially back to speedrunning, and would do his best moving forward. The speedrun community at large took this quite positively, as his sudden announcement received twice the amount of views his previous episode 0 got. With Darb's return starting with Super Mario Land 2, he would stay quite committed to the any% glitchless category, and between the months of May and September, he got 17 personal bests, lowering his time by over 30 seconds. Between all these runs, 5 of them were also new world records. Between Mario Land, he also did some runs of Elf on the Sega Master System, which he lowered the record in by a decent amount, and both DuckTales 1 and 2 on the NES. Moving to October, Darb would increase the variety to his speedrun catalog more and more, with records in Dennis the Menace on the Game Boy and Air Fortress on the NES. Darb in a comment reply stated that he was going through a backlog of games that had been on his to-do list for a very long time. It didn't matter if he got new records or not, he simply was going through games of his interest at his own desired pace. To prove that comment even further, Darb would also post runs of Pilot Wings, Earthworm Jim, and The Wizard of Oz. He even returned to Super Mario Land with an improvement of under a second. No matter what game he was playing through, it was clear that Darb seemed a lot happier, and it was refreshing to see him put his hands all over any game that he wanted to. He stuck his hands into more games, with Bayou Billy, Airwolf, Mad City, and Home Alone, many of those in that list also being world records. He could never stop putting down Mario Land as well, and scored another half a second improvement. That time as of making this sits in the top 5. Around the making of this project, some of his other endeavors have been Little Nemo the Dream Master, a Capcom platformer, and his latest streams being more Super Mario Land. Maybe Darb finally wants another Mario record. Time will tell if he does go for it. Whether you know Darbian from one of his most viral moments, his brief Wii Sports detour, or some obscure game, you have to envy how he represents the speedrun community. Even with personal hardships forcing him to temporarily step away, he was still determined to come back and keep pushing his gaming hobby and speedrun interests even further forward. From Weekend of Wally to Mario Champion, from being a young boy on Twitch to a speedrun icon, Darbian will always be in the back of everyone's mind, waiting for whatever he does next. See you soon. Goodbye.